All right, what is up, guys? So welcome back to another episode of Dougsterbob Discussions. Today we've got a good list of things to talk about. I spent some time, I listed out some things that I really wanted to go over, some recent events in BMX, some drama, some upcoming events, some riders on the rider radar, some product releases, and just some other things that pop into my head that I decide I want to talk about. So let's get right into the episode. The Dougsterbob mission, growing BMX by making it fun and easy to understand. For some of us, it's an escape. For others, it's a passion. But for all of us, it's a lifestyle. You're gonna love this sport. I'm glad you're letting me teach you everything that I know about it. So we're going to start this episode off on a little bit of a sad note. I saw a post from DK. It was yesterday at the time of filming this, talking about Colin Winkleman's birthday. And to be completely honest, I had no idea who he was until this post. So then I've done some research, and this guy was an absolute legend. Sent some of the biggest stuff. He was a writer for DK, product designer for DK. He did a lot. Early BMX to really move the sport forward by full sending and just attempting some absolutely insane things. So a couple days ago would have been his 45th birthday, and it's really sad to talk about. You know, he took his own life in 2005, and that's something that in BMX, in action sports in general, is kind of overlooked and something we don't really talk about. Dave Mirra did the same thing, and why is it so overlooked? It's hard for me to speculate and really talk about it as someone who's never really had any suicidal thoughts and has been pretty okay mentally. But for everyone, you know, life is tough. There's a lot of things that happen. There's a lot of different ways that we come up with to kind of deal with the stuff that happens in life, whether it be religion, alcohol, drugs, whatever it may be. Everyone has their own kind of coping mechanism, and some are more effective and more healthy than others. But like I said, it is really overlooked, and it's something that Mind Tricks is starting to do a little bit more of. Mind Tricks is, I'm going to read their bio here. Nikita Durakraz, I don't know, Nikita, the pro girl BMXer, and Pat Kelly started Mind Tricks to kind of break the stigma about mental health in action sports. So their bio says stories and conversations about mental health shared by the action sports community and beyond. And there's some really good stuff in here because it does talk about the different things that we face. And for a lot of us, BMX is a good way to cope with the outside world and to cope with everything going on in life. That's what it was for me. There was a point where when I first got into it, my parents were going through a divorce. I was not happy at school and just not happy in general. So being able to get on my bike, get out, ride, and just get away from everything was a good way for me to deal with whatever it may be. And I think that's how it is for a lot of us. So it's really, it's really good that Mind Tricks is kind of opening that door for a lot of people to send, people just send what they're feeling, what their thoughts are, and how they're able to navigate it and feel better, or just what they're going through. And just being able to talk about that is something that can really help you out. But the reason we got on that subject is Colin Winkleman would have been 45, and it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate to lose a fellow BMX rider to something like that. And, RIP, guy's a legend. Just wanted to, bring that up and talk a little bit about it. So if you guys don't know who this is, you have to look it up, man. This guy, it's just when I was researching it, I saw one of these videos. He's getting pulled by a truck to this huge gap over 18 cars or something crazy on a BMX bike. He was doing an interview talking about, I ride BMX, bicycle motocross. And the guy's like, so what's that, like bikes with motors? And he's like, no, usually there's no motors, but sometimes I need a motor to get the speed that I need. And seemed like such a chill, humble guy. It's really sad. So anyway, RIP. Let's roll right into another injury about Sean Burns. In March 2020, Sean Burns had an injury, and he's been out for a long time. I remember seeing about a GoFundMe and things like that with Sean, and this is kind of the story that I found on Vital about it. Sean had a freak accident and fell off a 2-story roof while filming a clip. He fell straight to his back on a rock. At the time of the accident, he could not feel his pelvis. He was rushed to the hospital in Austin, Texas, where x-rays showed pieces of broken spine bones and was told he may be paralyzed from the waist down. He went in for surgery the following morning. The surgery was good, and he was told he'd be able to walk again, but he has a long road of recovery. Now, I follow Sean on Instagram, and I hadn't seen anything since this event. I mean, little posts here and there. But for someone who, back on that mental health topic, for someone where BMX is such a huge part of staying healthy in all aspects of life, being injured off the bike is something that not many of us know how to cope with, especially when we use that as our outlet and our form of expression. So this is a sad deal. However, this was March 2020. Just recently, we saw a video of Sean shredding a pool, doing a fat table in a swimming pool back on the BMX. So this is, a more positive note to the podcast. And he was talking about how for him, he said stretching and meditation really helps a lot. And this is an interesting thing to look at, because I think we're taught to be more hardcore with the sport. We're taught to be more quote unquote manly in how we deal with action sports, crash like a man, take the crashes, take the injuries. But for him to get back on the bike, he had to go like a mental route and meditate on it and stretch and just build his body up through like thought. And it's a really weird spiritual thing to think about. But that's what worked for Sean, and it's so good to see him back on the bike, so he can send those crazy tricks. So anyway, let's get away from all the injury and stuff and recent events. The last recent event to talk about is Tate Roskelly's new video called Wait, What? It's a video for GT, and anything Tate does is insane. To me, he's on the same level as Eric Elstrand. I really love watching both of them ride, because it's just such unique, random combinations that you would never, ever, ever, ever imagine. And I have not watched it yet, but I'm going to soon, and I want you to watch it also. Leave a comment and tell me what you think about it and what your favorite part was, because I know it's going to be absolutely insane. So this is kind of a recent event, but it's also some drama, in my opinion, because Big Boy is now on Subrosa. Big Boy's been in the drama section with the whole Scotty deal, and now this. The reason this is in the drama section is because the same day that everyone announced Big Boy riding for Subrosa, Mark Burnett announced leaving Subrosa. He didn't say why. He just said, hey, the Mark here, guys, I'm no longer going to be riding for Subrosa, but I had some great times with all the riders, posted some pictures. And somebody commented and said, wow, the day that Big Boy joins, is this a coincidence? And Mark said, I didn't know anything about the Big Boy thing, and I consider him a friend. It's not that, and it's a bummer that it looks this way. However, I don't know. This could be speculation, because that's what happened with Adam LZ and Stranger. Although the riders were a lot more straight up about it, they brought YouTube star Adam LZ onto the Stranger Pro team. And everyone quit Stranger. Rich Hurst, the guy that runs Stranger, said he learned a big lesson from that. And now, is this what's happening with Subrosa? I don't think so, because just one guy leaving, the whole team's still there. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Big Boy was brought on more so on the Flow team than the Pro team, which gives him an opportunity to work up and prove himself to the Pro riders, which is something that I think a lot of the Stranger riders were kind of upset about, is that Adam got thrown straight onto the Pro team. Now, one thing, in 2018, Mark Burnett left Sunday and quickly moved on to Subrosa. When he announced leaving Sunday, he wasn't saying why or where he was going, but it was right after he had just gotten his complete or signature frames from Sunday. He kind of bounced right away. and this is really weird to me, but it seems like he hasn't stuck on Subrosa that long, and now he's leaving again. Did he get kicked off? Did he quit? Is he going on to better things? Like, what is going on? I'm very curious, but it seems like a common trend for Mark to bounce around from team to team. And yeah. Now, on that note, there's some heat on We the People. And the reason that We the People has this heat is, first of all, this was a while ago that Ruben Alcantara, hold on, I'm trying to find it. Ruben Alcantara, posted something about a full suspension BMX bike. He said prototypes are being painted. If you love BMX, you love suspension, you're going to love this. And shortly after that, We the People posted a prototype of their full suspension BMX bike. And everyone just like absolutely went off. Ruben posted about how this is unfair that this brand would come in and just like, this brand has a lot more capital, a lot more money, and just to roll out with something like this, he felt like they stole him and his friend's idea. And We the People is, in my opinion, just recent events. That wouldn't have been the first time. It seems like this is kind of a common trend for them to take what's hot and just kind of capitalize on it. They've done very well for themselves. And I'm not saying that they're not original, but I'm just saying that I think, is his name Dave, the guy that runs We the People, has a sharp eye for new things in BMX. And I don't think he necessarily copies them, but I think he more so innovates them and does a better job. And people are kind of upset about that. So anyway, after that full suspension thing, they posted it. They decided after the heat they got, they posted again and said, hey, we're going to let this develop on its own. We're going to stay out of it for a while and see where things go. So the way that I took that is they're pulling out their idea and letting Ruben figure out what they're going to do with it before We the People moves in and does anything. I don't know. I don't know. I'd ride a full suspension BMX, honestly. I was about to say, what's the point? But honestly, that'd be kind of fun and kind of cool. But here's what happens. I'm in the same situation where I know if somebody used one of my ideas, not this one, but a different idea with a lot of capital, they could totally blow me out of the water and do whatever. And I know how that feels to just be on edge all the time, but there's also good that comes with it. If multiple companies start making full suspension bikes, it drives the price down for the consumer because there's more competition on it. It drives the price down on the parts because more people are buying it, more people are innovating. So yes, that's a really good idea. What he should have done, in my opinion, is partner with a brand and said, hey, this is my idea. This is what I've got going on. Let's roll this thing out. So he could have partnered with, say, We the People to bang these out. And it's just something that happens in the real world, right? You come up with a good idea, and if you don't have enough capital, you're not able to act quick on it, you're going to get smacked. And that's just how it happens. So you have to be smart about it. And I don't know. I feel like it's kind of an entitled attitude where he said, well, you stole this idea, because I'm sure it wasn't patented. I'm sure legally they could have done whatever they want with it, but out of respect, they pulled back and they said, hey, go ahead, do your thing. We're going to hold off. Now, they would have been crucified in the BMX community for continuing on with it. So I'm sure that did weigh in on their decision. I don't know. Like I said, in the real world, that wouldn't have happened. Whoever wanted to use your idea and do it better would have walked all over you. And all you can do at that point is figure out how to leverage your ideas and partner with somebody to make it banger, better, faster, whatever it may be. So it'll be interesting to see how this develops. I think by We the People stepping back, it really pushed us back a while now to where we'll actually see something like this, because the guys that are working on it just don't have, they're not the same as a company that is running something like that. So in an upcoming event, I saw something on Instagram of a backyard jam at Dennis Enarson's house. Unfortunately, I think it's very soon and I will not be able to make it, although I would love to be there. But if any of you guys are in the area, you're going to have to find out a little more information about it. I cannot find the post. I saw it, no, I can't find it. Maybe it's just going to be some pros jamming and hanging out, which would be cool. We'll get to see some really awesome videos out of that. Anything with Dennis Enarson, I love it. We talked about him in the live yesterday, how he's definitely one of my favorite street riders, even though he's a very, very, very well-rounded rider. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what comes out of that. Now for the rider radar, I've been seeing Logan Martin a lot. And it's not just, I mean, I love Logan Martin. I think he's one of the best riders right now. I love seeing him go super high with those triple whips. But one thing that he's been doing a lot of is the nothing front bike flips. And this is mostly a Jay Tui trick that we see a lot. And Jay and Logan have been riding together quite a bit. So Logan was able to pick up on that front bike flip, and now he can just casually throw it in lines over his Resi box. He'll just, flare whip, flare whip, come over, nothing front bike flip, clean, just super clean. And what is this going to do for contests? Is this going to be a new standard? Is it kind of an outlier? Like, are people going to appreciate the trick for what it is and the ability to take that risk to throw it mid-run? Or is it just going to be like, oh, it's like a scooter trick, nobody really cares? I don't know. I think our Willie gets kind of undervalued because of some of the stuff he does. It's just like 1 on Resi and 2 super high, super crazy. With Logan throwing stuff like this casually, in my opinion, this could really bring him up to top performance if he's able to be consistent with it. Now, I don't know how consistent he is. I saw him at Woodward West in 2019, and for the most part, he was pretty consistent, but there was a lot of multiple attempts. And same with Ryan Williams. You see the Instagram clips, you're like, wow, that's crazy. But we don't see how many times it actually takes. So it's one thing being able to land these banger tricks. It's another thing being able to do it consistently and land it on command in a contest run. So I'm really curious to see how that develops and what he's able to do with those nothing front bike flips. Now, the next thing is Marcus Christopher. I just saw a clip of this. It's a quadruple down whip. Now, this was also on Resi. Quad down whip is something, quad whips are something that you never see in general. And a quad down whip is especially hard because if you know how to whip, you have a lot more momentum that you can throw to get that whip around. For a down whip, it's opposite. Like everything's counteracting, crossing over. Quad down whip is absolutely insane. The post was that it's on Resi, but who cares? And this is the next thing I wanted to talk about real quick. What do you guys think about Resi? I don't know. I don't necessarily feel much safer on Resi than I do on box jump. So for me, it's not like, oh, this was on Resi, so it's like he didn't take as much risk. Because to me, like I said, it's like, dude, you crash on Resi, you're still going to get hurt. You fold up in your bike, you're going to die regardless. Now, it is nice that you can land and it absorbs some of that impact. You can slide out. But the general thing, like, to me, it's like foam pit. Yes, that doesn't count. You can try whatever you want in a pit, but if you can't step it up to at least Resi, it doesn't count. So if we were counting Marcus Christopher doing a quad whip into a foam pit, okay, that's stupid, right? But on Resi, he's actually rolling out of it. He's actually landing it. And had that Resi been a real quarter, he still would have landed it. He still would have rolled out of it. It's almost identical. And I don't get the hate essentially on landing tricks Resi, because if you can, bro, look at the level of riding that we're doing right now. Like everyone pro level could potentially die on a crash from some of the tricks they're doing. Maybe that's a little bit of a stretch, but if you land upside down on a 13-foot up flare double whip, you're going to break your neck. So doing stuff like that on Resi is perfectly acceptable, in my opinion, because back in the day, say Matt Hoffman, when he was first learning flares, that is one that's insane. He's learning them on mattresses and stuff, but that's still insane at that point. But now BMX in the last few years has progressed further to where we're doing that trick or 2 flares, like with tail whips, with other things, that it's almost necessary to take those tricks to Resi and do it there first if you don't want to die. And we talk about BMX riders pay, pro athlete pay, and it is not enough to risk breaking your neck on a 360 triple tail whip to bar spin. Now in contests, that's different, of course, but for claiming a trick and actually landing it, who cares if you landed on Resi, if you landed on a box jump? You did the trick, and most of the people hating on it can't even do a quarter of the trick that you're trying to do. Anyone hating on that quad down whip can't even down whip air. So to me, I think Resi counts, but I'm curious, what do you guys think? As older riders looking into it, I don't think Resi was as much of a thing as it was now, but those younger riders are kind of growing up with it. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the thoughts vary on Resi or on not Resi. Now there's a couple different product releases, and then we're going to wrap this up. Actually, there was a lot of product releases, but I only picked a few that I really wanted to talk about. The first one is the Odyssey Grandstand pedal. Now, I don't really care about the pedal. The whole design is set up to where it doesn't have as much play in the body and the axle, which is nice, but I mean, I don't know. That's not something you really notice too much anyway. It comes in plastic, comes in metal. But what I wanted to talk about with this was Tom Dugan posted a promo video. And the first clip in the video is him cranking at this little kicker under a bridge. And he jumps from the kicker onto a highway bridge, the side of it, does a wall ride, and then goes to drop back down. But he pulled off the wall ride too early and turned a little bit. And then it's like a huge bank that goes down into a road that's going under the interpass or the interstate that he just wall rode on. And his leg gets all twisted and he slides down. And if I crashed like that, I'd be dead. But he just gets up, kind of holds his elbow and walks it off. But I just wanted to point that out. It's a pretty sick video. He uses that kicker and does a bunch of absolutely insane things. But Tom Dugan is on another level when it comes to sending big stuff and getting away with it. I aspire to be on that guy's mental level to where pain does not affect you like that. Imagine this. Imagine Tom Dugan gets in a bar fight. This super huge dude just grabs a pool stick and smacks him over the head as hard as he could. Tom would probably just kind of rub his head and just keep going. And that would be enough to scare away the giant dude with the pool stick. Because they're like, this guy's crazy. And that's how I feel about Tom. Check out the Grandstand pedal, I guess, if you care about pedals, but that's not why I'm talking about that. One thing that came up on the live though was the Colt Too Short frame and kind of what I thought about it. I don't know. I didn't look at it. It's the same as last year, I'm sure. It's got a short responsive chainstay, a steep head tube. It's very, very, very responsive. For me, it wouldn't work very good because my size 13 feet would hit the pegs and I wouldn't have fun doing that. But Colt dropped a bunch of frames and I posted this on my YouTube community channel or whatever, where you guys can see the posts that I post pictures or I post polls. And it was just hundreds of boxes of frames outside the warehouse. I thought they were complete bikes at first, but they're frames. And so here's the frames that they dropped. They dropped a new Hawk frame, a Benegas frame. I don't know, Paris. She's one of their pro riders. They dropped her signature frame. They dropped a D Hart frame. They dropped a Corey Walsh frame. They dropped the Colt Crew frame. They dropped a Shorty frame. They dropped a Heaven's Gate frame and a Too Short frame. So, and then some of these frames had signature colorways for different riders. I know the Colt Hawk frame came with the Angie Marine Angie signature. I'm not very good at last names. It came with an Angie signature color that looks incredible. Angie is moving up in the world and doing good. She did not get her own signature frame like Paris, but she did get a signature colorway. So that was one of the things I wanted to talk about was the Paris frame. So we talked about Nikita earlier with the Mind Tricks, and now Paris has a signature frame. And this is a first in BMX. She's the first girl rider to have her own signature frame. Colt actually sponsors a good amount of female riders. And the way Robbie, the owner, talks about it is that they're trying to make it more inclusive and recognize the talent of female riders in BMX. It's really cool to see. And they put in, honestly, they train like real athletes, and they deserve a lot more attention than they get, and a lot more respect too. So it's really cool that Colt is taking a step in recognizing that and making those signature parts. It's honestly crazy that it's taken this long to do something like that, because I think if there was more girl riders in the sport, and it was more of a recognized thing, then more girl riders would get into the sport. But the reason there's not many girl riders is not because girls don't ride BMX, but it's because girls see girls doing gymnastics or other things like that. So they're getting into stuff like that, and not necessarily seeing girls rip it on a BMX bike and getting into BMX. So there's a small handful, and I think it's very early on. I think Paris, Angie, Nikita, I think they're all kind of pioneers of women's BMX, and I'm really curious to see where it goes over the next few years, because like I said, super early on, they're going to be Olympians very soon. They would have been Olympians last year, but COVID postponed the Olympics, so they're going to be Olympians soon. And that's a huge inspiration to a lot of girls who might eventually get into the sport, which ties into the goal of Dougsterbob of growing the sport. So good job, girls. You guys are killing it. Keep up the good work. Keep training, because the way I see it, girl BMX started, getting bigger right over the last decade. But BMX with guys started multiple decades ago. So it's fair to see a difference in abilities here, because this, you almost got to think about it as two different sports. One sport, the male sport, started way earlier than the female sport. So obviously they're behind, but they are catching up. Like Paris is throwing flips, Nikita's throwing flip turn downs, Angie's a street rider. It's really cool to see. So I'm not going to go in depth on all the frames. I did just want to touch on that though, because I think that's super cool. So Wethepeople also has a flight bag that just came out. It looks absolutely amazing. And I need a flight bag because I think I'm going to be able to start traveling soon in the next year. And I need a bag. Oh my God. I borrowed a bag from Jake. It was a DK golf bag from Woodward. And I borrowed it when I went to the UK, and it was nice, but it was huge. It was almost as tall as me. My bike would fit in there. A lot of stuff would fit in there. And I'd kind of wear it as a backpack. And then it just, for taking it around town, carrying it around, I had to put my bike in it, drag it 2 miles to the bus stop to get on the bus to go to Scotland. And that was not fun. Like a nice little compact bag would be a lot nicer. So the Wethepeople bag looks sick, and it's probably a couple $100, so I won't buy it yet. But one day, I wish they were only like $100. That'd be a lot better. The last part we want to talk about is the Wethepeople Hybrid Free Coaster. This came up, so Wethepeople posted a video of it, and somebody commented and said, "How about you come up with your own ideas?" And that ties into what I was saying about the them prototyping that full suspension bike. It's really funny to me, because that guy was obviously upset at Wethepeople, and it's like, well, what can you do, man? The hybrid cassette, hybrid hub, hybrid free coaster, whatever you want to call it, is pretty unique. So the way I see it though is they did piggyback off of the BSD Revolution and the Free Night Hub. They said, well, how could we make this better? The BSD Revolution has no slack. So if it does decide to engage, you do a huge drop off stair set and you plan for it to be in free coaster mode, but it engages, you're going to get bucked over onto your head. That is inconsistent, and you don't want to ride something like that if you're sending huge 180s. So the hybrid free coaster, you can decide what you want to ride. This is perfect for someone like me who enjoys a free coaster sometimes, but also loves to switch back to cassette. My friend Barrick is the same way. It's a cassette with pawls. And when you want to change it, you pull out the hub, you take out the springs, you put the pawls in, and it's like it got a magnetic disc from what I saw in the video that goes inside. And then you put the hub back in, tighten it down, and then the disc works by engaging those pawls or disengaging them, depending on how you want to do it. So when you're pedaling, it pops up those pawls so that it's engaged. And when you pedal your, you disengage it by pedaling forward and unpedaling, it pops those pawls down so that you have your free coaster. And that's kind of how a free coaster works without a slack disc and a clutch and stuff. This one seems a lot more simple, and it's actual pawls in there. So I don't know too much about the internals, but the way this works is a lot better, and it gives you slack. And they talk about how it's really good for crank flips, which is a free coaster problem, that not many free coasters are very good for crank flips. So they kind of capitalized on that and made something that is alternative, where you can alternate your free coaster or your cassette. And it's probably going to be $250 or up around there, which is definitely a lot for a hub. But think about it as you're getting two different hubs. And the way the video looked, like, he changed it out in maybe a minute or two. He took it off his bike, pulled the hub out, changed it out, and boom, he was good to go. Boom, went from cassette to free coaster. This is really cool, and it doesn't happen. If you wanted to switch out some different hubs and say you could have two wheels, you could put a free coaster on instead of a cassette and just swap them out like that. But then you've got to have two different wheels, like I said, and that's pretty expensive. So this is going to be interesting if a bunch of different BMX companies kind of capitalize on it, and if they start developing this technology a little more to make more hybrid type free coasters, or are they going to let we the people just have it, see how it goes, and then maybe capitalize on it? I don't know. I think it's going to sell and become kind of popular in BMX just because there's a lot of riders who love, free coaster gives you a certain kind of tricks and a certain style. Cassette gives you certain kind of tricks, certain kind of style. So being able to switch them out and alternate, you can be a more well-rounded rider with a bigger bag of tricks. So that's something that's really cool. So that is it. That was a lot of good stuff to go over. In the YouTube video, there's a link below where you can leave voice memos for me to add to my next podcast. So I'll be able to hear what you have to say. We can kind of discuss some different things, and that's going to be a lot of fun. One thing I really wanted to stress is that tag Dougsterbob on Instagram or wherever with different BMX stories that you see that you kind of want me to cover. I spend some time whenever I see something, I save it so I can talk about it. But if you guys see something really interesting, tag me so that I can check it out and add it to the podcast. All right, keep shredding, keep growing BMX, guys. Have a great day.